Hello, everyone. I have brought this up just because I am known for waffling too long, so this has got my prompts on it, so hopefully I won't waffle. So I am Holly Barber. I'm from Manchester and I have suffered from pulmonary embolisms. So I'm just going to start right from the beginning, and I've basically started with life goes on because for me, I don't want to say I was dramatic, but it was a big shock, and I used to get so caught up in everything, and my mum used to just say to me, Holly, life goes on. And I think now when I have bad days and when I have good days, and that's always in my head, I just think, you know what, life goes on and it's what you make it. So I'll start off with a few embarrassing pictures. Let's just work out how to do this. This is basically my whole life. I was 22. I was a student at the time. Well, I was just finished uni, but I was still living that uni lifestyle. So I was drinking quite a lot, eating what I shouldn't do, just basically being a normal 22-year-old. Never had anything wrong before. I think the worst I'd ever had was a night in hospital to have my tonsils out. You know, in 22 years, I'd never had anything at all. So I'll take you to May 2012. So it was the 10th of May, which is quite fitting. It's coming up to my anniversary, as we were mentioning before. And I woke up in the middle of the night with what I can only describe as feeling like a trapped nerve pain under my arm. I'd been out drinking the weekend before, and down everything, you put it down to what you've done the last few days and everything else. So I was thinking, oh, I'm fine. The next thing, it started to kind of spread up my neck, to the top of my back, my chest, and then the coughing up blood started, which was a bit of a trigger for me, where I was just thinking, this isn't just I haven't just slept funny. My stepdad is a trained medic, so I was living at home at the time with them as well, luckily, because I think at 22 I wasn't really thinking, I didn't even know what a blood clot was, I'll be honest. That was the last thing on my mind. All I was thinking of is I've got like a trapped wind or indigestion that's really, really bad. So I went and woke up my stepdad, explained what was happening. He saw the pain that I was in. And then the next thing I kind of remember is that I was in hospital, and they did a scan on my body first. Well, first of all, I was in there. They were giving me painkillers and just saying, you know, there's nothing wrong, just there's something, but there's nothing. They were kind of doing the physical examination a lot more than they were doing the internal examinations. And it was a student nurse, actually, that was must have been on shift at the time, and I recognised her, actually, because we went to primary school together. But she was a student nurse at the time in the A&E that I went to, and I heard her behind the curtains, because they only put me in minors as well, so I'm thinking, it's minors, I'll be out in a few hours. I was more bothered about being late for work at this point. Still in quite a lot of pain, but they'd given me quite a lot of painkillers as well, so it kind of numbed the pain, but also numbed my mind. And I think that I'll talk a little bit about that in a little minute, but I think the painkiller thing really did numb my mind more than it numbed anything else. So I was kind of it made me think that it was nothing. So I heard this student nurse anyway, behind the curtain, just say to somebody, oh, we'll just do a D-dimer test just to make sure, a blood test. Now I'm thinking, I don't want a needle. That was my worst thing, was thinking, I hate needles. My TB, it took like 5 teachers to hold me down for. So I'm thinking, I don't want blood taken. So they did the blood test, which was obviously the worst thing that had ever happened in my life ever. And they did the test, and then I was lay on the bed. I was sat up on the bed. The next thing, about 6 nurses came in and a doctor, and they just said, lie flat on the bed. You've got a blood clot, but we're not sure where it is. So I was like, all right, that's nice. I'm thinking, the last thing I heard from a blood clot was, you know, I don't know, on Holby City, and they weren't that bad. They just had one in the leg, and it wasn't that bad. And I didn't have a clue what had happened. So from this point, the D-dimer came back positive, and that was when they said, you've got a blood clot, but we're not sure where it is, so we're going to give you a CT scan. So I got a CT scan. This was all in the same day. It was the 10th of May. I got a CT scan, and then they came back with the results and said that they found 13 blood clots across both my lungs. So at 22, to be told that, I was like, well, what do I do now? Like, what is it? I still don't understand when you keep telling me pulmonary embolism. I don't know what them two words mean. So I don't know what you're saying. Is it bad? Am I going to be out tomorrow? Does my life just carry on as normal? What happens? And now looking back, I was so naive, because it was kind of a start of a journey as well. Because I think, you know, we all talk about it in a quite a negative way. But for me, it was the kind of wake-up call to my life, if that makes sense. I know it probably can for a few of you to think, at that point, it was when it all started for me. And before that was kind of a bit of a blur, probably because I was a bit drunk all the time. But it was a bit of a blur. So I was on 6 months treatment of warfarin. Like somebody else just mentioned then, at the time, I don't even know if these new drugs were about at the time, but I had no idea what they were. I was just offered warfarin. Now, it did have quite a bad effect at first. My hair started falling out. Now, I don't know, and the doctor, my GP, still doesn't know now whether that's because of the anxiety that I was facing at the time that my hair was falling out, or it was the drug. I was put on quite strong painkillers for a long time as well, because I was suffering really bad with chest pains still, like the symptoms of PE. And my doctor at the time used to say to me, you know, oh, you shouldn't be getting symptoms still. It's probably just anxiety, you find. You shouldn't be getting symptoms. It's probably all just in your head. And I think that's where, I'm going to say lifeblood, but I'm not going to say the thrombosis, charity comes in, because I went on that group a few months after, thinking I was the only 22-year-old in the world to ever have had it. I thought it was like a granny illness, I really did, and especially from going to my warfarin clinic, and I am they're lovely, like they're all like my grandma and granddads now, but when I first started going to my warfarin clinic, I am the youngest by about 50 years, so it was kind of like, I was thinking I'm a rare case, I'm the youngest person in the world to ever have it. But going on groups and support networks like what we've got, I just felt so lucky, because I came into contact with people like Francesca, like Claire, that I thought, do you know what, these people are really managing, and it's nice to know that you're not alone in it. So the worst thing for me was not getting drunk. So I was thinking, what do you mean I can never drink? I was also told to avoid cranberry and avoid vitamin K. Now, I'm not controversial about this. I take cranberry every day in a supplement, and I have lots of greens, lots of vitamin K, but I have that every day, so that's consistency. Now, it literally makes my blood boil when I hear someone even write in our group and say, I don't want to have vitamin K, and my doctor's told me not to have cranberry, and I can't eat salads. And it's not, as we know, it's about consistency, but I think when GP says something, it sticks in your head. And I think that's where the confusion comes with a lot of people, because you see consistent and you think avoid. So I think with me, it was just about getting to know it a little bit better. So moving on to May 2013, which funnily enough, believe it or not, it was exactly to the day of 2012, I started to get similar pains in my chest. Now, I wasn't on warfarin. I'd been off warfarin for 6 months, and so they brought me off the warfarin and just said, see you later. We might test you if it ever happens again, but it's probably nothing. No reasons why it happened. So I just thought that was general practice, and that's how they did things. So 6 months treatment, fine, off a pop. I didn't ever start... I mean, I'm talking about drinking a lot. I wasn't an alcoholic or anything. I was just a normal 22-year-old, like, ex-student. So I just decided then to kind of not really drink as much as I used to. So my lifestyle changed. I'd never been on the pill, which I was asked quite a lot. Now I realise after speaking to people why, because obviously it's a risk factor. At the time, I just thought they were asking me about my other medications. I had no idea that it was a risk factor. So I have been on it, but it was years and years and years ago. So that was out of the way. So anyway, so this May 2013, I got similar chest pains in my chest. Started coughing up the blood again, and I had suffered from anxiety in this past year, so I thought it was just that. I thought, it's in my head, it's in my head, it's in my head. And then I think to the point where I rang my stepdad again, and I was like, listen, I think it's happening again. And he's like, right, breathe, what are the symptoms, the usual? He's like, we need to go. So anyway, so we went, and they did another scan, and this time found one large clot, which was on my right lung this time. They did a scan of my legs both times, actually. I missed that out as well. I've got it written down here. I told you I was one for waffling. But they did a scan on my legs, an ultrasound on my legs, and they said that I had no signs of DVT, and I had no signs of DVT this other time. So they're just not sure, basically, where it's formed in my body, whether it could have formed in my lungs. So because I was then had another PE in May 2013, they would then put me on lifelong warfarin. Now, I've never been offered anything other than that. A couple of months into my lifelong, lifelong medication, I decided that I wanted to get tested. They'd never done any testing before, and to me, that was a bit, well, I kind of want to know, I know some of the doctors and professors here said, either or, you're probably going to be on it for life. So I spoke to my haematologist and my consultant, my GP, and I said, I want these tests doing, I really want them doing, because I want something to blame it on, I really do, because not knowing is driving me mad. I would sit there and honestly, every night I'd have a twinge, and even though I was on warfarin, you still hear about it happening. So I'm sat there and I'm getting a twinge and I'm thinking, what if it's another one? And when I got my latest one in May 2013, they said the size of it and where it was, if I hadn't have caught it when I had, it would have been a matter of days before it had killed me. Now, saying that to me, when I was already anxious, was probably the worst thing they could have done, but they have to tell you these things. But for me, that's all I heard in my head is, I'm going to die. And I just got obsessed, I got transfixed with this dying thing, I was ridiculous. Everything, I'd stubbed my toe and I'd think I was dying. It was ridiculous. So I just started to get really, really anxious and obsessed with it. So they decided to do the testing. They did the thrombophilia screening. They said they tested for a couple of other things. I have no idea what they tested for. She just said they definitely tested for thrombophilia, and everything's come back negative. They have no idea why I've clotted, but I'm on warfarin for life, and that's basically where I am now with the medication and whatnot. Now, I love that picture as well. Look how dramatic I am. I don't know if it's gone to the next one, but I've got the other picture. Is so dramatic. I think my mum at the time had said to me to basically send her a picture to let her know I'm okay when I was in hospital for quite a while the second time. So I sent her a selfie from my bed, and I found it a few weeks ago, and I was just like, look at how dramatic I am. It's ridiculous. So I put on a lot of weight as well at this point. Because they said that I couldn't get drunk, I thought the next thing to do was eat everything. So eat I did, and because at the time I hadn't done my own investigation and I hadn't spoke to other people about the cranberry and vitamin K thing, to me that was avoid salad. So everything I ate was beige. So I did pile on the weight. At my heaviest, I was about 16 stone and a size 18. And that was within a couple of months as well. People talk about dramatic weight loss. I was pretty proud of that. It wasn't cheap. So for me, it was just a kind of, why is it happened? Why has this happened? I was spiraling a little bit. I was anxious about everything. My doctor just said to me, there's some things that you're just never going to get answers for and you're never going to be able to explain. And now you've just really got to live your life. And for me, I was like, he's talking rubbish. He's never been through it. How does he know? And then going into these groups and speaking to people like Francesca, we've had many a conversation about this. And it's just knowing that people are out there that are going through similar helps so much. So I just decided that basically I was just going to turn my life around a little bit. So in August 2013, there or thereabouts, I just decided that something had to give, and it was a mentality thing more than it was a physical thing with me. I've put life begun again because, quite frankly, I feel like it really, really did. And before that point, I wouldn't say I was depressed, because I think depression is a very, very strong word to use, but I wasn't happy. I was very anxious about everything. I was put on anxiety medication that was just numbing everything. I couldn't even cry at a film at one point because it was just I was just numb to everything. So I came off them. I decided to come off them. I decided to study nutrition as well, which has really, really, really helped me. If anyone can do any sort of course in kind of nutrition and learn about vitamin K and the effect it can have on the body and the effect that everything else can have on the body as well, you know, from fruits and vegetables to spices and herbs, you know, it's helped me a tremendous amount. And I've managed to bring my INR to a therapeutic range now since about December 2013. So for me, that amount of time to be within range of my INR is great, because before then my charts were up and down and they were like, oh, we might try you on something else, but we don't know what that something else is. So just to have that control over my life and just being able to use food instead of using it as like a comfort, using it as what can help me, what can really, really help me. And when I first got on warfarin, I was taking like quite a lot of warfarin a day, whereas now I take about 6 to 7 milligrams depending on day. So just bringing that down for me, it's a psychological thing. I think if I'm not having as much medication, it's not as bad. So I've set up my own business as well, just to help others with their healthy lifestyle and things like that, because I think it's overlooked a lot, especially in things like this, especially in medical circumstances where you might have a little bit of uncertainty, because I have got control over what goes into my mouth and what can feed my body the proper way. And I think that helps me so much, as well as exercise. You know, I'm no Paula Radcliffe, but I like running and I like doing things and I like inspiring people to live healthier, happier, positive lifestyles. I'm running my first 10K this Sunday, actually, for Thrombosis UK, so I'm very excited about that. I've raised just over £400 so far, so that's fantastic, and I'm still going. I am still going with the fundraising. We've got a few days yet to get people to donate, but I also got approached by my local news. It was ITV News, but it was my local news, like Northwest Tonight, basically. I don't have a clue what the others are called. You get my drift. They came and did an interview with me as well, and I got to mention the charity in that as well. I think someone posted it on the group. My paper, the Daily Mail, I was put on on an Australian news website as well, all mentioning the charity, and I've got donations from there as well. So I think it's just, for me, it was completely about turning a negative situation into a positive situation, and just reminding myself that one, life goes on, and two, things could have been so much worse. Like, I am so lucky, really lucky, to be able to just have what happened to me and come out the other side. And there's people that have had worse, and there will be people that have had worse, but I think just knowing yourself and knowing with me that what happened to me wasn't nice at all. And I think people like to downplay it a lot, and I found this especially with a lot of friends and family. You know, my close friends and family have been there through thick and thin, and they know exactly what I've been through. But there's some people that just don't get it, and that's where groups like this and days like this really help, because you get to realise that you're not the only one feeling like this, and you're not the only one that's got this anxiety about everything. So, you know, I think just being able to be positive and be a positive influence on other people is literally carrying me through. I never know what's going to happen in the future. I'm open to trying new drugs, that sounds really bad, doesn't it? What have I just said? I'm open to trying new medication. But, you know, I think for me, it is just about staying positive, being a bit lighthearted. You know, it isn't a fun thing to go through, but I think if you can make someone smile who's on the same journey as you, then that's everything. So yeah, that's basically me, and just believing that anything is possible. If you'd have told me when this first happened, like 3-4 years ago, that I'd own my own business and I would be helping people, and people would be messaging me from around the world saying that I am an inspiration when really I don't do much, is amazing. And just remember to smile as well. I think that's very important. So I'll leave you on this quote, because I think a lot of people can relate.